Greetings duelists, and welcome to another video. With our first YCS starting this weekend, I figured this would be a really good time to bring up things that are like more known in the competitive scene at the moment. During our first week of regionals, our first couple of weeks leading to this event. This was a really good testing ground for a lot of players to experiment with strategies that are post dunes, like Rescue Ace, Unchained, Vanadium, as well as decks that were already like doing well before Dune, like just fitting the environment for those decks, like Kashtira and Labyrinth. Today specifically, I want to talk about Chimera and how pretty much this strategy evolved throughout this month since its inception in Dune. And basically just talk about the level of innovation that just arrived with this strategy, because at first glance when Chimera first arrived, it was a very compact engine. It was a very niche strategy that just fell under a lot of people's radar, and as of late, with the couple of following weeks, people have been getting more and more creative with it, and we've been seeing like a lot of things like revolving around it. And I strongly believe that like as a prelude to what I'm going to explain here, this might end up becoming like one of the best decks in the game sooner than later. But before I get to that, I guess we can just talk about like a little brief history. For those who don't know, or those who are under a rock, Chimera is a fusion-based archetype that revolves around like a retrain of the Gazelle and Baphomet, as well as the Flying Mythical Beast. And the card that makes it all possible is this card called Chimera Fusion. Basically, Chimera Fusion is quick play polymerization as long as a fiend, a beast, or an illusion monster, well, a beast and a fiend specifically, are used as the fusion material. At first, when you see this card, or when people saw this card on initial release, they didn't like think way too ahead into it. They just thought, hey, this card is specifically just made for the Chimera archetype, and not many things can be done with this unless you're playing those cards in it. But then, after like a couple weeks, people just started like finding other themes that just fitted perfectly with this archetype, and just said that they can roll around with it. Like one of the first things we saw was the Frightfur Patchwork engine, as well as Branded. Yeah, this was just a natural fit because Edge Chain is like alongside Patchwork and Poly, is just a searchable fusion engine that just it makes you a good amount of advantage. And Edge Chain, just being a fiend monster, made it so it was a catalyst for both the Chimera Fusion or just making the Flying Chimera itself. Then we just ventured into Branded. One of the first things that people noticed is that Springen's Kit is a beast type monster, and you do have cards that can fuse into your engine, like Rinbrum. So like fusing into Rinbrum, just using Gazelle as a material, just started your Chimera engine. And then like people just figured, hey, Branded Fusion is just a strong card on its own. This engine involving the Chimera Fusion already has a fusion lock, so it really didn't like bother you too much if you played with with Branded. And it's been seeing a lot of success. Like this engine, or at least the Chimera archetype itself, just circumvented a lot of legroom that the Branded decks were missing, and just made the deck just a lot more oppressive. Then we start like watching other variants like Tri Brigade and Runic. These engines just were a really good natural fit. I already made a Chimera runic video. Go scroll through my channel if you want to see it. But basically, I brought up how the runic cards just facilitated this engine because the monsters you summon with the runic spells are fusion monsters, and you have a couple of beast type monsters, so they can all be used as fusion material for like the flying chimera. Adding to that, it didn't bother you because you're summoning fusions from the extra deck, so the fusion lock also didn't bother you. Then you see Tri Brigade being in the mix because you do have beast type monsters like Spriggan's Kit. Tri Brigade Kit and like Keras and a few others. And it just became a natural fit because not only did it like help bolster your engine, but the Chimera can bring back beast monsters from the graveyard, so it made it so you could it was very splashable with the Tri Brigades. If you ended up having this monster banished, you could just bring it back with the trap card and just use it as a material for Shureg. Did you do this on your opponent's turn, so you don't have to worry about getting fusion locked unless you summon Bird from it early. Then we started seeing like a little bit more versatility. Like we started seeing DPE being played as an engine. Again, like it didn't bother you because like you just summon this at the end of your combo, and this is a fusion monster. Then you started seeing Versago. You started seeing like King Tiger being played as like a side deck option. This was paired with the Branded Fusion, and basically since it's a Fiended type monster, you can use it with Chimera Fusion to fuse into other stuff. Like for example, you can use this and Baphomet, for example, to just summon something like Grapha. Because this is a fusion substitute monster. But as we kept going along, people were starting to become a little bit too creative. They started thinking outside of the box with how Chimera is conventionally played, and with how much variety we have in the wide genre we have with Fiend and Beast monsters. We're threading into a little bit of a more dangerous territory. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we start seeing like lockout monsters being part of the equation. Stuff like El Chadol Winda. Stuff like Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Like post Age of Overlord, this is going to become a lot worse. While people are looking forward to the Bellstar, Sinful Spoils, Snake Eye, Horus, SP, like the Labyrinth Butler, and like the new XYZ, the Typhon. I'm more afraid of this. Like, I'm more afraid of this card. This card is really, really scary for the game. So for those who don't know, basically this is another Chimera Fusion monster. You summon it with any combination of Beast, Fiend, and Illusion monsters, as long as two of them are different. This name is also treated as Chimera, so it works with the Chimera Fusion recurring itself. It works with the Illusion monsters protecting you. But the real scary part about this card is that upon Fusion Summon, you can send any Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monster from your deck to the graveyard. This is the part I'm afraid of. This is the part where this gets a little bit too dangerous, because now you have to worry about stuff like DD Orthros. You have to worry about stuff like the Protector of the Sanctuary. You have to worry about like Gimmick Puppet like being part of the equation as well. You have to worry about stuff like Fiendish Rhino Warrior, like stuff like other themes, like maybe something like Infernoids could be part of this, or Dark Worlds, or Labyrinth. But yeah, like we've already established that we have degenerate stuff like on hand, and that's before Age of Overlord. I kind of want to talk about this engine. I don't see many people talking about this, but Hell Shadow Hollow, it's a fiend type monster. What does this mean? This means that window locking is also a part of the equation in this deck. And yeah, like people are not fan of this card. So just bringing up, just I just want to bring up that we're not even in Age of Overlord, and we're already seeing lockout strategies like this, like be part of the Chimera deck. I think that like Chimera might unironically just become the best deck and the most annoying deck for people to face in the game, and Konami will pretty much have to have another agenda for our next format whenever the Forbidden Limited list happens, because even though Chimera is still fairly new and people are welcoming this fusion strategy, if you remember Tearlaments, when they first arrived in part of the duelist, Tearlaments wasn't the main focus of that set. The main focus was Sprite, mainly because of their performance that did overwhelmingly in the OCG. But like a little bit after that, like 1 or 2 weeks after, and after by the time the first YCS arrived, people arrived to become way too creative with Tearlaments. We saw dangers being splashed with them. We saw like the Bahamut Shark being played with them. We saw Curious, Fairy Tale Snow, Chaos Ruler, and half of those cards are already banned. Like those cards are already gone. I think it's only a matter of time until Chimera like follows this trend, and we're just gonna have another Tearlament situation where this deck is a little bit too strong and this engine is a little bit too splashable. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because like right now, even though Chimera is not on everybody's radar, like Kashtira is still dominant in the format. We still have other decks that people are thinking about, like Unchained, Rescue Ace, Vanadium, like just to name a few. I think like it's only a matter of time until like Chimera just like becomes really really strong and just blows almost every deck out of the water. If Dimensional Barrier ends up being on the forbidden list, like a lot of people are like wishing for it to be, there's not going to be a lot of counters for this deck outside of stuff like Contact C and like Retaliating C. So best be prepared for now than like having to suffer like this debacle like in the future. But yeah, I hope you found this informative. I hope you found this to your liking. If you're playing at the YCS, best of luck. I might talk about other decks and strategies, but I just wanted to talk about Chimera because if I were to go to a YCS, this deck probably would be top on my priority list just because of how powerful and how unorthodox it is. And to this day, it has been around 1 month and people still don't know how to play around, against this deck. So yeah, I hope you understood all of that, and with that, keep practicing and keep dueling.